Welcome back, Infinite Souls, to another episode of Light Speaks. If you're joining us for the first time, I'm Roshni Sharma Fleming, CEO and founder of Still Fire Healing Inc. here in Toronto. On Light Speaks, we journey together through the incredible world of energy and holistic healing, the reclamation of divine feminine energy as a bridge to well-being and health, and the sacred path of women as creatrix. This space is dedicated to inspire inner awakening, reclaiming our health and well-being, and empowering us to move from the limits of 3D into the loving flow of higher consciousness. Together, we create a nurturing, safe, and respectful space to explore our infinite selves. Thanks for stopping by. Welcome, listeners, to Light Speaks. With me today, I have a beautiful guest, and I'll introduce you to this wonderful soul in a moment. My name is Roshni Sharma Fleming. I'm the CEO and founder of Still Fire Healing Inc. here in Toronto. And with me today, I have a very at the beginning of my journey, I met this soul and I have not let her go. And there's a reason for that. And you'll get to find out why today in our interview. So, Melanie Richards, I'm very honored to have you here and welcome to Light Speaks today.
Thank you so much for your warm welcome. And this amazing, wonderful woman, I'm going to send you a virtual toast
Oh, thank
to,
you.
to Roshni. And thank you for your warm welcome and for inviting me.
You're welcome. I'm really excited. I think, and you said it before I started recording, we're meant to be in this space today. There's like this thing, it must be Scorpio. It's Scorpio season, obviously, and you're a Scorpio, and I love Scorpio. So, astrology does not lie.
Yeah, and we have a super moon around the corner.
Ooh,
So yeah, it's probably
absolutely.
supposed to be today.
It's
Mhm.
supposed to be today. I see it. It's for me. I can see it right. It shines right into my house, and I'm always taking pictures of it, going, "Oh, that's a moon, all right." And it's just so bright. Tell us about yourself, Melanie.
I'm a girl from the Bronx who
Mm.
just rooted for your Blue Jays, and I wish they had won.
Oh,
So my good thoughts to our dear friends in Toronto and other places. And I
yes.
am a girl from the Bronx who's a Mets
Yeah.
fan and the daughter of a Brooklyn Dodgers fan. So
Wow.
I have to, as you would say, and what I love about joining you today is the evolution. I am now settled in, new layers, new skin, as an
Wow.
event as an event conversion strategist, thanks to really great coaches. So I'm certified in trust, and my mission is to inspire others to ignite trust, which really just means how do we help you cultivate trust?
Yeah.
So you're able to have the conversations you'd like to have, the relationships, and the
Mm.
impact and the influence that you'd like to have.
I love that. And I think that's one of the reasons I was drawn to you as well. Because trust can be a tricky thing these days, especially with the way the world is and how the choices that we face are actually cultivated with trust. So if you trust that this is the right thing for you, things normally will work out. And I know trust is a big theme, and I've always been very curious about trust. And you are certified in trust. Can you talk to us a little bit more about what trust means to you and how it has helped you in your journey?
Oof. So full transparency. I'm
Mm,
certified in trust and I'm a trust pessimist. What I needed to learn was my
mm,
experience, as many of our experience with trust may happen something we read in a book, we see it in a movie, we see it in a play, but my
mm.
experiences through what I now understand, Yvette Bethel of Organizational Soul, she describes trust as there's a trust sequence and
Wow.
there's a distrust sequence. And my lesson was that some relationships move throughout that sequence.
Mm.
And that includes our relationship with ourselves. So in the
Yeah.
beginning, when I first started working on this, I was kind of in the lanes of emotional intelligence and emotional mastery from all my HR clients. And then I started positive intelligence. It led me, as Roshni and I were just talking about, kind of into the shadow work. So I had some trust shadows, some trust barriers, you
Mhm.
know, some childhood bullies, some childhood experiences that we don't necessarily share with our parents until decades later when we discover the other parts of the story. I think for me, trust started out as a byproduct of self-trust. I started to really discover the need within there to do that work. If I don't trust Mel and how she shows up today, then I'm not necessarily in alignment with Mel's integrity. So the part is Yvette Bethel taught me there are pillars of trust. And she's got an amazing assessment to assess our trust styles. And there are 6 of them. And when I met her, I was working on a course and the first module was style and I was stuck. I heard her mention trust styles and I'm like, ooh, I need this resource. I need this resource. And this amazing woman says, you're asking the right questions. It needs to be your resource. So there, the invitation yeah, the invitation and just like the beautiful graphic behind you, we all need support. We need somebody to offer ways into the light. I needed to really dive deeply into this journey of self-love, of self-compassion, of
Mm.
self-empathy, and of
Wow.
self-trust. So
Mm.
yeah.
That's powerful. And I like that you describe the 6 layers and the ideas of how trust evolves within oneself throughout our relationships, and but then also within ourselves. And that is actually quite profound because I think more often than not, our trust style will vacillate between what we think we know and what we do know. And also, I think trust has a big connection to alignment. That when you are aligned, you trust better. Do you agree with that statement?
Oh, definitely. And it's funny since the second we met of this journey, our conversations about alignment. I so appreciate you and our conversations about alignment and realignment. That we need to keep asking ourselves those questions, and sometimes we don't create the space for that.
I agree.
But it's definitely a journey of alignment, of realignment, of does this puzzle piece still fit here? Is this the puzzle that I'd like to continue working on? Do I need help? That these are some of those questions that help us change the narrative so it's not one of self-doubt.
That's beautiful. And you're weaving in such the themes of self-care and self-trust, self-love, all of that is all interrelated with our evolution, and that when one goes down, something else might go down with it. And then one goes up and something else goes up with it. And I think it becomes challenging when one is struggling to understand their self-worth, when they are struggling to understand what truly lights them up with joy. And also, it becomes challenging when your trust has been broken time and time again. And I'm sure that is a soul lesson for many people, including myself. And when I look back, and I just recently posted about it, when I look back, when someone has broken my trust, it hurts. Because I always look at people, and I know you do too, as you give them a chance, you give everyone a chance. But when trust gets broken, which we'll talk about now, I hope that you can shed some light as to what one can do when trust gets questioned or broken in one's life.
One of the things sometimes when trust is broken, that process of watching, almost if it was two links in a chain that maybe they were intersecting or touching each other, and now there's a distance in between them. So I think the challenge is when trust is broken on a really soul level, you need outside help to determine, and somebody
Well said.
neutral to determine if both parties, and sometimes there may be more than one party, more than
Yes.
one partner living in the household, more than one colleague in the workplace, more than one other board member or volunteer at a committee meeting, or
Yes.
in a case where there are multiple facilitators, there's a lot of different factors for alignment. I think the challenging part is sometimes when trust is broken, it cannot be repaired. It will not be repaired. There's some of those things that happen at a soul level. I just can't watch this anymore. I just can't, you have a relationship and someone's like, I just can't do this anymore. And you reach whatever that point is. I think the hard part is because of that space, it's one of the things keep having conversations about in, as I call it, our fragile world. When there's space, our perception or lens can change. Other things can alter it. We have the inside stuff that's happening with us. We have the outside stuff. We have the stuff that we haven't fully digested yet. We have the stuff on the next page. We have the stuff around the next corner, around the next intersection. And I think what happens is that distance part, when that distance is allowed to grow, to gain temperature, if it was a dish on the stove, if it goes from a simmer to a boil, and you've reached that point. But I think the isolation part, and that's the hardest part, because we may feel like someone has closed the door, removed a seat in the room, their active or deep listener has taken a little vacation. But I think that change of perspective, and because of it, if our self-trust lens isn't on, if our intuition, something doesn't feel right, something doesn't look right, so something doesn't seem right, that when someone goes past that point, that distance starts.
Sure.
It starts getting a little dimmer in the relationship, the opportunity to share with transparency, to share with vulnerability, and in some cases to really see that both people are possibly willing or not willing. Are they trust willing to try even consider, is this relationship worth it? That's a hard question. Seasonal, historical, all sorts of.
Wow, that is a really rich response. And my question then, you have this beautiful series, and I'm Possible Live, which I've been blessed to be a guest on as well. And you talk about our fragile world through the lenses of all the guests that you've had, and also through your own lens, which is, again, a very rich discussion that people can tap into when they're feeling a little forlorn, a little lost. In our world today, and based on your I'm Possible Live series, how does one build trust in a world that is fragile, in a world that requires survival, in a world that people are just bursting with their stories, their anger, their loss, their grief? I experienced that in my own work, people just pouring out whatever they've been holding on to. But then how do you develop trust is so powerful. How do you develop trust, uh, especially as a woman in our world today?
So I think the part when we're really leaning in, and especially we're in the worlds where, as you, our viewpoints, our lenses are affected by our generations, our genders, our cultures, our identities, our communities. And I think what happens sometimes is that if you put the word trust in a GPT, it's going to come back 99% of when it spits it back out, when it shares with you its responses. It's going to add the word build trust.
Ooh,
It's also going to add the word foster trust.
ooh,
And the thing is, we have a choice foundationally. Am I trusting today? Am I willing today? Is my door open or closed today? Are my bags a little too full with family, with work, with commute, with debris, with
wow.
watching the news? If at some point this process of I used to think that ignite trust was simple because it made sense to me
Correct.
about lighting it up so that there weren't so many dim corners and so that there wasn't so much isolation in relationships or in us being able to achieve our potential. But I think what happens is when someone plays with the lights, we have to look for our internal ones and we have to find ways, just like amazing Roshni of Still Fire Healing, to rejuvenate them. We've got to fill the energy reserves because otherwise we don't have the energy. How do I want to approach this? In some cases, real time, real conversations. We don't have those time to ask that internal question and then receive an answer. One of my human design coaches, and I appreciate them, they always say, "Oh, can't ask you yes, no questions." And I just smile because if it's a yes, it's a yes. And if it's a no, there's a story possibly behind it.
Correct.
So, so I think sometimes from the perspective of creating trust or developing trust, we got to start inside out.
I 100% agree with you because when, especially women, traditionally they look and depending on how they've grown up or the conditioning that they've had or their generational traumas, the external validation becomes one aspect of how women stop trusting themselves. And you look for external validation from your partner. You may look for external validation from your boss. And I know Cheryl Moses, we have a common colleague, Cheryl, and she also talks about when you have, when you're looking outside of yourself, you're actually missing the point of being and becoming magnetic within yourself. And you just mentioned the same thing, but you're looking for that light within. And that song that comes to mind, that this little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. I'm not a singer, but that song just popped into my head because you're alluding to finding that within yourself. So you're not chasing external validation. There's nothing wrong with the external. We all live here. Okay. It needs a little work, the external stuff. But once you cultivate that garden of light, of understanding what it feels like to be magnetic, to be at peace within yourself, you're able to develop intuition and to understand that your intuition helps you to trust. So my question to you, Mel, then is, what are some of your self-care practices that help you stay within Mel Richards' zone of genius.
So the newest, the latest and greatest, and I'm ecstatic because it was just delivered yesterday while we were on vacation.
Yeah.
I have extremely dry skin, like
Yes.
ridiculously dry, almost like in winter could be eczema dry. Just have to be
Yeah.
really
Oh,
careful
wow. Yeah.
of the types of products, yeah, that I put on my skin. So I ordered a loofah. I have a body brush, I have a loofah.
Oh.
And what I'm really missing, and I'm promising when we get back home, it is time for a detox foot bath.
Oh,
And
yes.
an I think it's Oli Life P90. I tried it once, and it's just your feet on a bare board, and you're it's an opportunity, I think, to ground and kind of reclaim our energy. Another thing too, I'm really grateful to be from a family of sleepers. I really understand the importance of rest.
Oh, yes.
And I had forgotten that for a little bit because I
Sure.
think sometimes in the process of self-care, and I had to learn this, and I've been speaking about it a bit on Impossible Lives because catches us all by surprise. I didn't realize I was holding my breath.
Oh,
Did not realize. Did not realize. Did not realize.
you were holding your breath.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, as Roshni will say, the original date that we were getting together to record a tractor trailer cab jackknifed in front of my love and hit my love. I learned that day without realizing it that I had been holding my breath.
Oh, oh,
And that's the part I think underneath the trust work, underneath the shadows, underneath really need to sit in really sacred and safe spaces like the amazing communities that Roshni builds and that I'm delighted to have met you in and through. But I think we got to really feel comfortable on a soul level. And sometimes we're not listening to that music, we're not listening to that light.
no.
We don't know the beat has changed. It's the reminder sometimes, the deeper you get into it, that feeling of I'm dancing as if no one's watching.
Yes.
They remind you to breathe and take great care.
Yes. Yeah. So again, that visceral aspect of self-care, choosing products that are kind to your body, mind, and spirit. That's a key component. And it's not, and I'm all about this. Find things, it's not just paying more money. If you have the money, great, go and spend it. But if you don't, there are ways to find things to boost yourself. I just bought shea butter oil because I'm actually obsessed with it. I love shea butter oil. I've never used it, but I bought it from a Jamaican uh, uh, artisan here in my community. She builds it right from the ground up, this beautiful oil. And then I ran out and I said, I don't know where to find her. So now I went and bought shea butter oil and then I mix it with lavender, right, for
Mm.
relaxation. So really just in a few drops, how much self-care comes in that. So that is one thing. Sleep. You gotta sleep. If you're not sleeping on time, you're waking up kind of in a frazzle, or you're just running on empty. Perhaps you become dehydrated because you're tired. It all becomes like this wicked loop of survival mode, and we don't want that because that affects our abilities to make sound decisions, to use our intuition, to trust our journey,
Hmm.
and to be happy where we are going. So your journey specifically is quite fascinating to me. I consider you someone as very wise, professional, kind, and using the gifts that you've been given in order to bring light into, as you say, the fragile world. How do you trust your journey? How do you build trust within your journey today?
So I've been working for a bit on advanced trust facilitator certification.
Yes.
Every time I write a line in this journal, a new paragraph seems to pop up behind. And that's the part about trusting in the journey. Us acknowledging with transparency. Sometimes people will ask us to use different words or ask us to use discernment or different timing, but sometimes the process of alignment, I trust the process of alignment in the trust journey, that whatever is happening, be it part of a distrust sequence, part of a trust sequence, part of a lesson in emotional mastery, that I can have two emotions, two really deep, deep emotions, as some of the infographics will show you where the circles intersect, the reminder that two things can be present within us. I trust and accept that. What I what I was having trouble with before during the journey, and this is the hardest part I learned, is that I had so many different narratives happening from a legacy perspective, from a
Wow.
historical perspective. We carry that stuff like it's a heavy
Do
bag,
you?
like it's an albatross, like it's a weight. We don't acknowledge it. We try and shrug it off sometime. And what I had to learn was to acknowledge during the trust journey, it is there. This trust journey is ongoing. Every day I take a step deeper in this journey of self-trust, in this journey of self-love, this journey of self-care, this journey of self-empathy. When I forget, something happens dramatically. I was forgetting to breathe.
Yes.
We miss that stuff. We miss it.
Wow.
Kind of like a ship or a cruise ship or,
Mm.
or a plane. We miss it. We let it pass us by. And until finally it's like, nope, you are holding your breath. And thank God for an amazing coach who said, before you do another thing, I just need you to breathe. I just need you to breathe. Carol L. Stokes. She is on LinkedIn, a caregiver coach.
Wow.
Brilliant, brilliant woman.
Wow.
I just need you to breathe. I had
Wow.
no idea until she said it. I had been holding my breath.
And I think holding, yeah, when we talk about even in Chinese medicine, the breath is your vital energy. It's your chi. And if you're not breathing, you're like doing a shallow breath or you're holding your breath, you're depriving your body of the most simple self-love practice that exists and doesn't require any equipment. It doesn't unless you want some music to breathe to, which is beautiful. I do that. Doesn't require anything, but it requires you to be consciously breathing and being in the present moment, well, a moment. And when you focus on the breath, that's where power happens in a good way. That's where you seize the present moment. That's where you can start building and creating from. That's where you can feel where you're going next by taking your blinders off. Not that you had them, but taking them off and saying, oh, okay, I'm here now. Where do I go next? And then I think a breath, in a sense, anchors you as well, right? It anchors you to the here and now. And I think a lot of practitioners will say it, but it's sometimes hard to do when you are navigating the 3D realm in the way that you have to navigate it. So my question to you then is, we taught again before we spoke, you mentioned something about new layers and new skin. And I also mentioned that my first season of my podcast, I was a completely different person. And now you and I are here to again together almost 3 years knowing each other. Cheers to that. I have a plastic green cup. Oh God. Oh, look, it's disappeared because of my background. My background is green and my cup is green. So there we go. But the cool thing is that we sense that. How, with your new layers and your new skin, what was the process like?
I had to really learn to lean in. And something that I've been saying for decades in terms of networking, and as I'm rebranding to be Visible Solutions, a lot of times instinctively and intuitively, we really know how and who we need support from. I meet a person, and 9 times out of 10, I can tell you if I'm going to work with them.
I agree.
I can tell you if I'm going to become a client for them. I'm going to become a referral partner. If I'm going to become a collaborator, there's some sort of energy exchange. And I think that is what is happening now. I, as approaching a milestone birthday, I knew I just needed to remember something that you and I spoke about a bit ago, which was reclaiming our joy, reclaiming our laughter. I think underneath it, this journey of trust is connected with a journey of peace. Coaches brought it up to me in a new way. And I think the part that's been really helpful about this now, my faith walk is like fierce,
Nice.
rooted, solid, anchored. And when the light gets low, I now know who to call.
Wow.
And I think that's the part of this trust journey. We can sometimes call someone because we need to hear another voice. We can call someone because we're looking for help. Sometimes we're making a call to share information. And I had to learn in this season of playing with these trust shadows and in redefining what alignment means to me is to really figure out who to call when something horrific, catastrophic, unimaginable happens. If we really think about it, there's probably no more than 3 people we would reach out and talk to. And I think one of the things I had to realize that in the unimaginable, Mel has to have a system for how I process information, for how I share gratitude, for how I operate, for whether I'm listening or not. I am really working on becoming a better, deep listener.
Yes.
As opposed to the teacher's kid who, as Roshni and I would say, always have a pen nearby, right? The
Yes.
active listener. And I think that's been the big difference, that the leaning in to the deep listening, we have to really learn to listen to ourselves. And sometimes time doesn't permit it. Sometimes safety concerns, sometimes where we are. But I really had to be reminded, if I don't put my oxygen mask on first, there's nobody to help that next person put their mask on. And to realize that you know, as we say in our coaches, in our work, in our collaborations, I had to remember to breathe. I had to remember to pause. And I think that part has fueled the trust part. I always give others permission to pause. I rarely gave it to myself.
Wow. What a journey. So you are an active witness now in your journey to see, and like that's what's coming up for me is you're like this active witness to say, oh, I I give everyone else this, and this, but then oh, now what about me? Right? And it's not selfish. I know you're not a selfish person. And that becomes a lesson in being a witness to your own evolution. It becomes an action, it becomes an active role. You become your main character role in your own life. You're writing your story, which is quite beautiful. And everyone's story is so beautiful, the way they can take what's happening to them and still stand with 2 feet the next day, no matter what's going on. Yes, we do that. It's because you're actively witnessing your life and then you're taking an active role, taking responsibility to it, for it, and trusting that wherever you're going is for your best and highest good, right? And I think that's fascinating. And I think you're a great testament to that. My final question is a little deeper now, but this will be my final deep question for you. As an African American woman, I'm a South Asian woman. Does trust show differently in your life?
For sure.
Yes. How so?
So that first lesson in self-trust was my best friend calling me a word on the
Oh,
school picture day
oh,
that no child should ever call another child.
no.
What I didn't realize was it was 3 weeks after Martin Luther King's assassination.
Ooh,
And she was repeating information that she heard at home, language that she heard at home. When her dad used to come home, we'd stop playing. It was time for me to go. We just knew it was, like a change in energy, like it's time like for her family to have their intact time. It I think the thing that was really important about trust is we don't realize the lens with which we define it. And we need to really think consciously, as Yvette says, and I really appreciated this, trust mass as loyalty. That depending on where we are, depending on the stage, depending on which mask, which role,
mm,
which voice is called for or shared in any given situation, that trust lens really can change. And I think the second time was about 10 years later, and that one almost broke me. And that is the difference. That's the one that led to the shadows. That's the one that led to the boundaries, the moats, the my internal process of protecting myself by building, larger bodies of water between me and the toxic stuff that I thought would could touch me. And I
wow.
think that's the part when underneath that part, as they say, not for the faint of heart, not to
Yeah.
do alone. Make sure you have exceptional, exceptional support. And just like Roshni would say, from an energy perspective, we really need to hang out with others who are holding sacred spaces for us
Yes.
or acknowledging our needs to be in them. If
Yes.
it may not be their choice for someone else to operate in that space, but to understand and accept that if we're sharing a space, that respect for self, for respect for each other, respect,
Mhm.
mutual respect, environmental awareness,
Yes.
and respect that all those things are like present in the mix. I think the definition also changes over time. Our
Sure.
experiences with it change over time. I smiled because a wonderful woman, Deborah Eckerling, introduced me on her podcast, and Deborah says, you're certified in trust, but you're really selective about it. And I said, Deborah, you're telling me I'm a trust pessimist, and I appreciated it. You, because it is, we see things so differently.
Yeah.
Do we
Yeah.
share that lens, like real time,
Real time.
real
I,
time?
and I think thank you for answering that because I don't think people realize that, you're looking at somebody's journey as they are today, but how did they get there? What shadow work have they done? And what have they experienced as a child to bring them to who they are today? People don't always consider that. They just take everything at face value and say, yes, that's Mel Richards, right? But all the layers that have brought you to this sacred space of who you are, that is the story that's going to sustain you. I heard yesterday he's 13 years old. I believe he's in university. He's like a child prodigy. And he says, you know, he was speaking to Hassan Minhaj, the comedian. He says, I wouldn't give everything all to AI. Don't give everything to AI. And Hassan is listening to him. He's like, yeah, why not? He says, well, AI is not human and it takes your creativity and intuition. So he's 13 years old. But my point is that when we are looking at our journey as a creative process, as an intuitive process, as a shadow work process, you begin to realize that everyone goes through it in the varying degrees and varying levels. And that brings them to who they are today. That doesn't mean that they're perfect as they are. Perhaps they are, perhaps they're not, depending on what their lens is. But when you bring that into perspective, you realize that the creativity that it took and the courage it took to bring you to that spot is remarkable. Everything that you've gone through to bring you to who you are today is remarkable.
We don't see the layers. We see them sometimes when we lose them. We see them sometimes when others are grieving. We see them when we lose them.
Yes,
we see them
yes.
when we release them. We see them when others grieve them. And sometimes it's really internally that acceptance that everything must change. And that means us. We've got to keep on aligning, realigning, reimagining. Reinvention is not always possible in this world.
Sure.
And especially not without tremendous support.
Sure, yeah.
And a major marketing budget,
Oh, yeah, yeah. Woo! I appreciate that. I have one last question, and I'd like to know how you define love.
Love is the opportunity to share unconditional gratitude. I think it's the highest job, the highest job. And I love, it always reminds me of a Corinthians verse 13:1. Love is patient, love is kind, love accepts. And the reminder that interest in sharing unconditional gratitude with someone to possibly brighten their day. That it's not about our internal frame, not about our internal systems, but it's the willingness or the offer to give more often than you look to receive. And some would say without favor, when you do receive, it's not to equal what you've expended. It's just maybe to rejuvenate the wellspring from which that love flows.
Wow. That's incredible. Melanie Richards, I have so enjoyed our conversation. I was so excited and still am to be a part of your solar system. And I love that we are sharing our journeys. And I appreciate all the insights that you've given us today. And how can people reach you? How can they connect with you?
The easiest way is two ways now. One is through LinkedIn.
Sure.
And the other one is through YouTube. Be Visible with Mel. There's a library of Impossible Lives.
Great.
There's a library on Ignite Trust, on Cultivate Trust, and a bunch of different playlists that may be suitable, whether you're into audio, podcasts, videos, shorts, little bit of something on the menu for everybody.
I love it.
So I'd say YouTube probably is the other place to go.
That's awesome. And what is there anything that you'd like to share that's coming up for you that people can look forward to at this time?
I am about to open up invitations for our fragile world to come join me in 2 trust containers. And one will have kind of a boot camp feel because we need people to support us during seasons. And then we need the space to be able to go do the work
Yes.
or come back and debrief or get more support or get more
Yes.
questions.
Love
So
it.
creating a community to do that, that's kind of focused around events
Sure.
and event hosts or sponsorships or exhibitors. But the other will be communities where we can have discussions about trust, and it's different stages
Different stages.
because each of us has a different relationship with trust.
I agree.
And some of them are brand new. And to create a space where there'll be mental health professionals in the community so that people don't feel isolated.
Yes. That sounds incredible. And check it out, listeners. Mel's content is very powerful, but very accessible at the same time. She works with incredible people and has an amazing ability to connect with others and to build community around her. So you won't lose out by connecting with Melanie today. And we appreciate everything that you have shared with us today, Mel, and we wish you all the best in your journey.
Thank you so much, beautiful. And thank you to your amazing guests.
Thank you, everyone. Light Speaks, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. See you next time. Thank you, Infinite Souls, for tuning in today. Your presence here means so much to me. You can explore more inspiring episodes of Light Speaks at stillfirehealing888.podbean.com. You can help me build this vibrant community by connecting, sharing, and supporting the podcasts, especially those that really resonate with your soul. Chances are, if they resonate with you, they'll probably resonate with someone else. I'm Roshni Sharma Fleming, CEO and founder of Still Fire Healing Inc. here in Toronto, where we help women build wellness foundations through heart-centered and empowering guidance. You can connect with me at stillfirehealing.com, on LinkedIn, or even on Instagram at stillfirehealing888. I want to lovingly remind you at Still Fire Healing, we always say spend your energy wisely. Thanks for tuning in and stay blessed.